What is going on, Streamyard community? I hope everybody is having an awesome day today. My name is Nick, and today we are going to be talking about how to get more views on your YouTube live stream. Some of the things that we're going to be going over is topics. We're going to be going over titles and how to write titles that are the most effective, and that also, give you the best chance of discovery on YouTube. We're also going to be talking about thumbnails. We're going to be talking about descriptions, and I'm also going to be giving you some bonus tips, so to speak, on things that you can do after your stream is complete so that you can make sure that you're also leveraging the efforts that you put into your live stream while it's live, but also to make sure that you are taking care of the piece of content after the live stream is complete as well, so you can continue to get views on that live stream even though you're not live anymore. So you're going to get live stream replays as well. So that's what we are talking about today. And if you are, just joining us today and you have not been introduced yet to the Streamyard channel, let's say you're coming from my channel or from Twitter or something and you haven't been introduced to Streamyard yet, just as a heads up, Streamyard is an easy to use live streaming platform that can help you bring in guests in an easy way. They also host everything in the cloud for you. So you don't have to have a strong computer or anything like that. You can stream from a potato computer, so to speak, and Streamyard is going to do all the heavy lifting for you. So you can still add graphics to your stream if you want. You can bring people in, you can add videos to your stream, all types of really, really awesome features. But you can check it out for free, or you can try it for free, I should say, at or just get more details on it at streamyard.com, or you can just go straight through the link in the description below this stream right now. So what we're going to do, just as a heads up in terms of how we're going to work through this today, is I'm going to be sharing the information at first. And what I encourage you to do is take notes on the things that I'm talking about. And later in the stream, we are going to have a Q&A. So if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I talk about and, how it pertains to you and your YouTube channel, then make sure that you just write it down. And then later in the stream, when I ask for questions, then of course you would want to ask the question at that point in time. But, feel free to talk to each other, in the chat, ask questions in the chat and all of that as well, because of course, we're here to support you and we're here to, make sure that you understand all of the things that are important when it comes to live streaming. So to get this whole thing started, the very first thing that I do want to let you know is the goals of what it is that we're doing today. So our goal is to help your streams get found easier while you're live, and of course to help your live stream replays get more views as well. But before you go live, that's where we're going to start. The very first thing that, of course, is really important to do is make sure that you are coming up with good topics for your live stream. I got to make sure that my audio, I just had a flicker here. I got to make sure my audio is still coming through, okay? And it looks like we are still good. Okay, so the very first thing is when it comes to your topics, you don't want to have a topic or a title to where you're just like, hey, this is just a unintentional live stream. There's no real purpose for the live stream. There's no real reason anybody should even be interested in this. And it's just a really vague thing when you are, approaching the live stream that you're going to put together. And this is going to get really important when we get into the title part of what it is that we're talking about today. But what you want to think about is, as long as it's possible around your live stream, instead of just going live and just kind of like sitting there and just kind of waiting for people to show up and not really like doing much or adding much value, just think to yourself, okay, when I go live, I'm going to take the approach like I'm publishing a video to YouTube. And that approach, when you publish a video to YouTube, is you try to make it as compelling as you possibly can from the outside so that people will click on your video or your live stream more and actually come in and participate in what it is that you're doing. We're going to be talking about how to do that exactly here in just a few minutes. But one thing that you can also do on the topic side is, of course, for the type of content that you make, if you can work trends into it in any way, shape, or form, to where it's a trend in your industry or some type of pop culture trend that you can kind of wrap your conversation around, that's also something that is advantageous for bringing views to live streams as well as video content. Like if something happens, to give myself as an example here, like if something major happens on YouTube, if YouTube does some type of, big change or something like that, if I live stream about it or put out a piece of video content about that big industry news, then, those videos will do really well for that point in time, because there's a lot of people wanting to find out information about the change that's been made. So because of that, I keep a really keen eye on trends. Now, really quick, if you just say yes or no here in the chat, do you know where to find trends and where to find what's trending in the type of content that you make? Just give me a yes or no, because if we get a lot of no's, then in that case, I will, pull up some additional information for you here to make sure that you have, the right resources that you need as well. But another thing when it comes to the topics, when you are trying to come up with topics to do your live streams about, and this applies to video content as well, but one thing that is really advantageous to make sure that you're doing is making sure that the content that you're making is something that people are already interested in, right? So when you go live, right out of the gate, for a fact that what it is that you are making is something that at least some people already have an interest in. So so we got a lot of yeses in here. So for the no's, just as a heads up, one thing that you can do, and I'm just going to drop this link in here. One thing you can do is you can go to trends.google.com, and at trends.google.com, I'll just show it here on the screen actually. But what you can do, this is another win with Streamyard being able to show this kind of stuff. But basically with Google Trends, what this does is you can set it to where when you first open it up, if you go to real-time search trends, this will show you kind of what's going on at a particular point in time. So you go right up here into real-time search trends, and then you're going to see some things that are happening right now. RIP Dusty Hill, ZZ Top, by the way. But basically you're going to get some of this information, and it's going to let you know things that are going on right now in terms of pop culture. Now, how you would want to do this for your industry is, let's say, do we have any gamers in here? Out of curiosity, if we have any gamers in here, just whatever type of content that you make, just go ahead and just mention it here in the chat, because I might be able to make this, specific to you. Just let me know what type of content it is that you make, and I can start actually looking for that. But what I'll do right now, because it seems like there's a bit of a lag, is I'll just go ahead and I'll just assume gaming here in this situation. So let's say that if we are doing a gaming live stream, right? Then here, let's say that your live stream is about Fortnite. Then in that particular case, you'd put in Fortnite, and you can look at this and you can get an idea of, what's going on in the last 12 months. But if you look here, you can also see that they give you date ranges. So you can say, hey, over the last 7 days, the past day, all the way down to the past hour. What you want to do if you're trying to target YouTube, which is what most of you are going to want to do, is you want to make sure that you select YouTube from the drop down here. And then, of course, you want to come over and you want to sort this date range to like the last day. And then what you can do is, if you scroll down, and some content types is going to have more information down here compared to others. Vlogs, of course, is going to be an outlier here, because with vlogs, you get to talk about anything really. So in that case, I would just lean on the pop culture side of things, or just find things that you think are interesting to talk about for your audience, and the things that, you collectively care about, as an audience for your viewership. But one thing that you can do here is, when you come down to this bottom area, you'll see that they show breakouts. Now, these breakouts are things that you can make videos about that are trending like right now. And they show you the actual, boost and how much it's actually rising in interest at this point in time, so that you can, use these as inspiration for your videos. Now, you don't have to match, the title exactly and things like that. But, like plant wire traps Fortnite, for example. If there's plant wire traps, that means that there's people, trying to figure out, how to use them, where they are, things like that. So because of that, what you would do is you would use this as a guide, and you would say, okay, plant wire traps for Fortnite. So topically, if that's what I'm going to be talking about, then I'm going to, make sure I do a little bit of research, figure out what the thing is with the plant wire traps Fortnite, and then I'm going to wrap my entire live stream around that and showing people how to find that. Now, another thing, let's do horror movies. That's a good one, because that was another one that came in. Let's just see if there's anything that's going on, right now in the past day. Okay, so here's some rising queries for you for the horror films. So if you're doing live streams around horror films, then in this case, you could do a live stream where you're sharing your opinions on the best horror movies on Netflix, because that's something that people are interested in at scale right now, and it's actually rising. Same exact thing, scary movies, full movie to watch. 1940s horror movies, for whatever reason, there's a 250% increase in that. 1981 horror movies, an 80% increase in that. But this can just give you some clues to let you know things that are popular around the type of content that you make at any given point in time. So you want to make sure when it comes to the topics that you are thinking of things like this, but that you're also doing additional things. Now let me go to YouTube. I'm going to show you another thing that you want to make sure that you're doing as well. And then after this, we're going to move into titles and how to actually write titles that get people to click on them. So right here, all you have to do when, hey, there's me in the thumbnail. That's cool. So all you have to do when you are trying to come up with topic ideas, of course, if you can be 100% original, that's fine. But if you are, wanting to prove that what it is that you're making content about is something that people are actively looking for, then in that case, what you want to do is you want to come up here to YouTube search, and you just want to type in the things related to the type of content that you make. So for example, if you came here and you did horror movies, in here, we could do horror movies 2021, Tagalog, which is Philippine language, full movies. That's people looking really to download movies. So you'd want to skip that sort of thing. But other things that you can do here is we're going to, after the word horror movies is written, we're going to hit the space bar, and then I'm going to tap on A. And then now we have horror movies we have horror movies animated, Annabelle, Amazon Prime. Okay, horror movies, Amazon Prime. So this would be one topic as an example for the horror movie scenario is, and this is for Andy Smith Horror here in the chat. But in this situation, what this tells you is that people are interested in, horror movies related to Amazon Prime. So you could do an entire live stream or an entire video based around, horror movies on Amazon Prime that you don't want to miss, right? That's your live stream title that, you build your entire packaging in terms of that's what you're talking about for the topic. You have, some type of horror film imagery in your thumbnail itself. And then of course you have, a compelling title, something along the lines of horror movies on Amazon Prime that you need to watch, something along those lines. And then you basically do your entire live stream about the movies that you've seen on Amazon Prime, if you have Amazon Prime. If you don't, then of course, you could keep going on this. But basically you would just talk about, the horror movies that are available there that you suggest people watch and things like that. You also have other things like this that are a little bit more specific, but, horror movies about, friends on vacation. So then you could collect, all of the information about, as many horror films that about friends on vacation, and you could do a live stream or video about that as well. But for everybody that's hanging out here, but it's watching this right now, the idea with this is that by taking this method and going in and looking for things that people are looking for, you're proving that what it is that you're making content about is at least something that people are actively looking for. That doesn't, guarantee that you're going to get views, but it guarantees that you're giving yourself the best possible chance to pull in new viewership that's related on the topics that you care about. And then of course, also, if you're publishing video content as well, that you're making content that can also continue to get views after you're live, which we're going to talk about that in more detail as well. But just to level this one up a bit, another thing that you can do as well is, of course, if you hit the space bar back and we take that A away, then you can also go to B and C, and you just run through the entire alphabet, and you're going to keep finding things. Now, another thing that you can do is when you do have that first letter, then of course you can put vowels after it, and then you can start seeing, different things that come up there, and it will just uncover tons of different topic ideas for you. So you'll never have to be without any topic ideas ever again, as long as you are making content. So in addition to that, it's also important, I mentioned before about the trends, but it's also important to, make sure that when you are optimizing your videos around, these types of things, that you're also writing titles that are, people are going to click on, because a lot of live streamers make this huge mistake where they will, basically they will publish their content, and the live stream itself will be something like, like live stream and then like a date, or, live stream episode, whatever, or something like that. But there's no real context to the viewer or the potential viewer about what your live stream is about or what your video is about for the people that do that with video content, but there's no real context at all. So because of that, what you want to think about when you are writing titles is you want to make sure that you think about the viewers that you're trying to reach, and think about, and I've got, more than just this, but think about, what might they click on, like what might they enjoy. So instead of doing like a marketing live stream or gaming live stream, like make it specific and make it compelling. And by doing that, you're accomplishing two things here. One, you're making it so that when your live stream shows up on home pages, because it will show up on home pages and it will show up recommended next to other people's videos when, when they're watching other content, because it's live. Live videos on YouTube carry a lot of weight because you're live. So YouTube is showing that live stream around a lot, trying to, let people know, hey, there's a live stream going on here. It's something that we think that you might be interested in. And then from there, it's your job as the person that's live streaming to YouTube. It's your job to get them to click on that live stream that you're doing. So what you want to think about is one, how can I make this title something that, is going to, one, help them understand how this is something they might be interested in, and two, how can I make it compelling? So as an example for this, since we were talking about the horror films on Amazon Live, and Andy said, what did he say right here? He mentioned something else about how he actually watches a lot of horror films. I believe that's what he said here, but he watches a lot of, he says, so ironic because I've been watching the heck out of all of the horror movies on Amazon Prime. This stream was made for you, Andy. But anyway, like when it comes to, your titles, what you want to think about is okay, of course, I want to make sure that I put, horror films in there because that's going to, horror films. I want to make sure that I put that in there in the title because that keyword is going to help the humans that are interacting on YouTube. It's going to help them identify that your title and that your video is about something that they care about. So you'd want to make sure that you put the keyword of horror films in there. And then you would also want to make sure that you have something compelling as well. So in Andy's case here, if the title itself was, just horror films on Amazon, instead of just having the title as horror films on Amazon, then what he would want to do is he'd want to add something compelling to that. So the compelling thing could be, that you need to watch tonight. It could be, that you need to watch over the weekend. It could be that you've probably missed, right? That would be a compelling element. So when you have the title of, horror films on Amazon Prime, then in that situation, when you add that you might have missed, that compelling part right there is going to be a defining factor on if people click on you from home pages and suggested videos or not. Because what you're doing there is you're getting into their brains to where it's like, hey, that, these are ones that you've probably missed. So then right there, they have that fear of loss. And then they, click into your video to see like, oh, hey, maybe there's some really good ones that I just have overlooked, or, if there's common ones that people overlook or whatever. So I'm clicking on this so I can go in and see, if any on that list are ones that I haven't seen before. But what you want to think about is you just want to think about, for whatever type of content that you make, how can you, title your videos and add some type of compelling element to it to make it more than just, this is what the video is about. This is what the video is about, and this is why you should click on it, right? That's the idea of adding that compelling element. Another thing that's really important when it comes to writing titles on YouTube is thinking of how you're actually formatting titles. So on YouTube, right around the 50 character mark, titles start getting cut off. So one of the things that YouTube recommends that you do is you put the most important information, the stuff that matters to the viewer. You put that information as close to the front of your title as possible. And the reason for that, like I mentioned before, is because when you're publishing videos to YouTube, they're going to show up in all of the different surfaces of YouTube. They're going to show up, on a bunch of different devices. So because of that, you want to make sure that the titles that you're writing are easy for people to read. And you also want to make sure that those titles are visible in terms of the thing that matters to the people that you're trying to reach. So what I mean by that is this. Since we're talking about the horror films here for Andy, one thing that I'll do for this one is, let's say that Andy's title, instead of it being, horror films on Amazon Prime that you've overlooked, or you've probably overlooked, or something like that. Instead of it being that, let's say that Andy's title was, you are not going to believe these 12 different, these 12 different horror films that I found on Amazon Prime, right? In that situation, what's going to happen is, one, the 50 character mark is going to come to where some of that information is going to be cut off in the end. It might be the word horror. It might be the word films. It might be horror films by itself, could be completely gone. And because of that, writing a title where you're not keeping that 50 character limit in mind, you're what you're doing is you're publishing content to where people can't get any real context from your title. So because of that, you want to make sure that anything that's important. So in his case, since we're talking about, Andy's horror films here, in his case, you'd want to make sure that you put that horror films as close to the front of the title as possible, because that is going to be one of those things that helps the people on YouTube identify that you are making a live stream or a piece of video content that is relevant to things that they are interested in. That's the idea. Okay. So when you are going for your character count, so YouTube, when you're just typing it into the title bar there, they're going to show you a character count. Other things that you can do if you just kind of want to workshop it before you actually do your live stream. There's also a tool called Online Character Count. If you go there, it's called Character Count Online, I think, .com. Yeah, it's charactercountonline.com. But if you go there, then you can just sit there and just kind of workshop different titles and just try to make sure that that important part is below that 50 character mark. Now, keep in mind, if your title's longer than 50 characters, it's fine, but you just have to make sure that the most important things are at the front of your title. And what that means is the thing that's going to get the viewer to pay attention, the potential viewer to pay attention and identify that the content is for them, that needs to be towards the front. And then any episode numbers or branding information or any additional compelling, elements that you add to it, those go towards the end, to where if they get cut off, it's not that big of a deal. Now, in addition to that, one thing that I've been noticing a lot from YouTube content creators, because there's a lot of content creators that watch my content. One thing that I've noticed with them is that a lot of people these days, and I'm not sure where this happened or why this started, but a lot of content creators these days are also putting multiple titles in their title. So instead of making one really good thought out title, what they do is they end up writing, 2 or 3 different titles to where they'll separate them by bars. So if we throw Andy under the bus here again with the horror movie content, an example of that would be Andy writing a title that says something along the lines of, horror movie films on, horror movie films on Amazon Prime, and then bar, and then, horror movie films online, bar, horror movie films you need to watch, right? So what you do in that situation is you confuse YouTube, you confuse the viewer, and people click on those less. And because of that, and it's also stuffing your title as well. So because of that, you want to make sure that you're writing one clear, focused title that you're trying to use to reach the viewers that are your target audience, the people that you're trying to connect with. You want to sit back when you're writing your title. Same thing goes with your thumbnail, but we're going to get to the thumbnails here in a minute. But the same exact thing goes with your thumbnail, to where when you write it and you're putting your thumbnail together and you're writing your title, to where you sit back for a moment. And, because we get caught up in like, hey, I got to make this title, I'm going live here soon. I got to make this, I got to put this title together. I got to put this thumbnail together. And you get caught up in the process. And, because of that, we can kind of forget the thing that's most important, which is, how are people going to respond to this? How, if a viewer sees this, or a potential viewer that sees this, that's never interacted with my content before, how are they going to interpret this title? How are they going to interpret this thumbnail? And then from that point, what you want to do is you want to ask yourself some very specific questions. Why would this title be important to somebody? How does this title help people identify that this piece of content is for them? Are the most important parts of this title as close to the front of the title as humanly possible? And you want to think to yourself, what about this title would make somebody feel encouraged to click on it? Just the actual information, it's not enough. You want to also think on the compelling side. Like, there's all of these videos that you're competing with on YouTube. So you want to sit back and you want to think through, why is this important? Why is it that the people that I'm trying to reach would want to click on this, right? Why is it important to them? In addition to that, you also want to make sure that you're including keywords in your titles as well. But of course, you want to make sure that you are focusing on the humans first, but you want to make sure that you are including keywords in your title and description. And the reason for that, either keywords or keyword phrases, but just keywords are fine. But the reason for that is because when you publish your live stream or when you publish your video content, what YouTube is trying to identify, and this is really important when it comes to live streams, what YouTube is trying to identify in real time, right? Because you just hit go, right? And you go live, or maybe you schedule it and then you go live. But what YouTube is trying to determine is who's a good fit for this content right now. All the people that are, while you're live, all the people that are on YouTube right now, who's a great fit for this particular live stream? What does the system think? What do the algorithms think that, hey, or the algorithm, what does the algorithm think or who does the algorithm think that would be a good fit for your content. So what you want to do is you want to give their system as much context as you possibly can, and keywords are a great way to do that. So for example, when you add horror or horror films, and especially horror films on Amazon Prime, then you're giving yourself 2 wins there on the keyword side, because one, it's helping their system identify that this is something about horror films. It's helping their system identify that this is something about Amazon Prime. And the way that you win in that situation, and keep in mind, right now, you know, we're leaning this on Andy here, but one of the things that you want to think about on your content is the same exact thing. When you are using those types of things, like in Andy's case, you know, horror films, and then, you know, Amazon Prime, what YouTube system is doing is they're, you know, in real time, okay, what people are the most active with horror content? What people have been watching horror content recently? And let's test this against some of those people. And then based on how those people respond to your horror content or whatever content it is that you make is going to determine how much YouTube keeps showing that content to more people. So because of that, the easier that you can make it to help the system know who would be a good fit for your content, the better off you're going to be. And the easier you can make it for the people that you're trying to reach to understand that what it is that you're making is for them, the better off you're going to be as well. And that also stacks down into the description of your videos also. So you want to make sure in your video descriptions, you want to make sure that you want to make that you also are using a keyword or keyword phrase as part of natural language in a paragraph or 2 down in your description as well, because that's one of those things that helps YouTube have context to understand what your video is about, so that they know the right people to show it to. And when YouTube knows the right people to show it to, because you've helped them have context, when they know the right people to show it to, you're increasing your chances of those people clicking on your content, coming in and interacting with your content, enjoying your show, possibly earning them as a subscriber, a regular viewer, a regular participant in your live streams. So you want to make sure that you're keeping those things in mind. Another quick best practice tip when it comes to your titles is YouTube put out information about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. They put out information in a video on their Creator Insiders channel, which if you make content for YouTube, you should be subscribed to. But one of the things that they mentioned there is that titles with all caps get clicked on less. So you also want to make sure that you're not using all caps in your titles, all capital letters, because if you do that, then what you're doing is you're working against yourself, because their data says that people click on those titles less. So when it comes to your titles, you want to make sure that you're thinking of those things. Now, in addition to that, you know, you can always level this whole thing up, which we can save for another stream. But you can also level this whole thing up as well, like depending on the type of content that you have. So let's say, because I know a lot of marketers, you know, watch the Streamyard channel. So let's say you're a marketer and, you know, you have very specific people that you're going after. I call these audience identifiers. To where in your thumbnail or your title, you just call those people out. So for example, let's say that you are going after vegans, right? And that's the type of content that you make. Then you'd want to make sure that you're using the word vegan or vegan, however you say it. You want to make sure that you're using that word in your titles as much as you can, or at least having that word in your thumbnail somewhere, so that the people that are into that type of content, whatever type of content it is that you make, so that they can identify that that content is for them, right? So you can call them out directly. I do this with YouTubers, you know, same exact thing. I do it with YouTubers and live streamers as well, to where, you know, a lot, if not, well, actually most, if not, well, definitely not all, but most of my titles or thumbnails or both will have, you know, YouTube or YouTubers, or maybe even a little YouTube logo, something like that, to help the people that I'm trying to reach, which is content creators, understand, if they've never seen my content before, that my content is for them, okay? So next, let's talk about thumbnails. So who here, just by a show of hands, you can just say me, since we're not actually showing hands, but by a show of hands, who here uses a templated thumbnail for your live streams? If you do, just say me. Just curiosity here. But if you use templated thumbnails, and by templated thumbnails, what I mean is that you, every single live stream, you have the same thumbnail that you use for your live streams. If that's you, just give me a me. So one of the things that I recommend that you do, and just a heads up, I'm guilty as well, okay? But one of the things that you want to make sure that you're thinking about is, if you have a following already, and you know, you have, like, my reason that I use templates for mine, like, I really, my streams would probably do better if I didn't. But my reason that I use templates for mine is because, I have a large YouTube channel and a lot of people are familiar with my live streams. So having my face on there, having the logo on there, that's my way of letting that, those people know, hey, it's Saturday again, I'm live. It's just my way of doing that because my live streams are for the purpose of connecting with my community. So because of that, I use the templates for that reason. However, if you're just getting started, let's say you don't have a large following yet, even if you do have a large following, like I said, before, even I should also, not use templated thumbnails, because then what you do is you're reaching your community, but then you're also giving yourself the opportunity to tap into a much larger audience that could come in and participate in your live streams, right? So if you're just getting started though, this is really important. You want to make sure that you are not using templates. You want to make sure that you make a unique custom thumbnail for every one of your live streams, and you base that thumbnail, just like you would with the title, you base that on whatever it is that you're going to be talking about the most in the live stream, or anything that if you're going to mention like one thing in your live stream that you think will be just a core hit for your audience, then in that case, like wrap your entire packaging in terms of your thumbnail and title around that thing that your audience cares about, so you can get them into your live stream. In addition to making your thumbnails unique, it's really popular on YouTube where people think, and it seems they think this more when they're getting started than when they have experience, but you also want to consider if you need text in your thumbnails or not. So a lot of people will use text in their thumbnails because they think that that's just what you're supposed to do. But in reality, the most important thing is helping your viewers identify that what you're talking about is important to them. So if you are making live streams on, let's say, sports, then in that particular case, you would want to have sports imagery in your thumbnail, and you can or cannot use text, your call. But the idea is you want to make sure that the imagery matches what it is that you're talking about and what it is that your audience cares about, so that when your content is displayed next to a bunch of other content on YouTube, it stands out to them because it's something that they're interested in. So for example, and I love giving this example just because it's nice and crystal clear, but what you want to think about is if you're making content that's like baseball related or football related, then what you want to think about is, even if I'm sitting in an environment like this and I'm just talking to the camera, there's no sports going on, I'm just talking about sports, I'm talking about baseball, I'm talking about football, I need to make sure that the people that I'm trying to reach can understand that I'm here talking about that. And one of the ways that you do that is by making sure that you have baseball or football imagery in your thumbnail, so that when you're showing up, being recommended next to other content that they're watching about sports or whatever, or anything else, when YouTube recommends your content to them right out of the gate, it's not your face, right? It's not your face there, talking about the sports, or, because they don't know you're talking about the sports yet, but it's not your face. It's not, your office. It's not anything like that. It's sports imagery, because that's the thing that their minds are going to see. An idea for that, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but there's actually like a psychological thing, and there's a name for it, to where, like, let's say that you're looking, at a particular car model. Before you were looking for that car model, or before you discovered that car model, you didn't really see them, anywhere. But by the time, you're like, what, I think I'm going to get this car. And then you make the purchase for that car, all of a sudden you start seeing them everywhere, right? Because it's just at the top of mind. Same exact thing goes when it comes to your thumbnails. You want to make sure that you're using that imagery that's going to help the people that you're trying to reach identify that what you're making is for them. Okay, that's what you want to make sure you're doing, even if the sport itself isn't happening in the stream. As long as you're talking about that thing, you want to make sure that you're doing that. So let's say, for example, I see magical. Magical. Here, hold on one second. Yeah, it is magic. Okay, so Magic Prepper. Sorry about that. So Magic Prepper's here in the stream. So like in his case, so, one thing that he would want to do is any type of, imagery that's related to, prepping related things is something that he would want to use in his imagery. Let's see here. Mr. Camera Junkie, of course, would want to make sure that he's using things that are related to cameras, lenses, apertures, anything else that a person that's interested in cameras would be able to identify at a glance, which is a really important part of this part of it. Let's see here. Who else? My Vivid Life. Can't really tell what the channel's about there. But the idea there is basically just to make sure that the imagery that you're using is something that resonates with the people that you're trying to reach, but more importantly, helps them identify what you're making is for them. Also, when it comes to the text, like I was talking about before, you want to make sure that you're experimenting. So you do not have to have text in your thumbnails. If you do put text in your thumbnails, though, you want to make sure that the text is big, bold, easy to read, and that you're using as few characters as possible. The reason for that is because you're trying to grab attention with your thumbnail, okay? You're trying to grab attention with your thumbnail. You're trying to stop people on their tracks. You're trying, people are, they're watching TV while they're looking at their phone, and they're sitting here and they're just scrolling through their phone, right? So what you want to be able to do is, if you are using words or whatever imagery that you're using, you want to be able to stop them in their tracks as they're scrolling and zero in on what it is that you're doing. That's what's going to happen. You're not going to have people that are going to stop and be a bunch of cluttered text all over the place and just a bunch of craziness, to where they're just going to stop and be like, hey, I wonder what this, let's see here, turning it upside down, right? To be able to see hey, what does that say? They have this thing's rounded and it's kind of wrapping around the thumbnail. What is that? People just don't do that. So because of that, you want to make sure that the text that you're using, if you decide to use it, is big, bold, and easy to read, and that you're using as few characters as possible, and that you're focusing on the right words. So these are called focus words. So what you want to do is, when you're putting the text together, you want to make sure, in Andy's case for the horror films, in his case, if he had something about horror films in his thumbnail for text, he would want to make sure that there's a really big emphasis on horror films. Doesn't matter what he says around it. He just wants a bigger emphasis on horror films or horror, so that the people that are interested in horror, that will be one of the things that helps grab their attention, right? That's the idea. Same thing, if it was baseball, maybe baseball, or something related to baseball. If it is, a location of some kind, if you're a vlogger and you're talking about, a particular theme park or something like that, theme park imagery, theme park, very specific things within that theme park that enthusiasts would care about. Those are the types of things that you want to focus on. And you also want to make sure that you are experimenting a ton with your thumbnails. When it comes to the experimentation, it's also very common on YouTube where people think that you have to use a face. You don't. So if you want to get more clicks, which in turn translates into more views, it's important to experiment with using faces versus not using faces as well. If we use that sports imagery idea, you know what? Camera Junkie's in the house. Let's just use him. So in Mr. Camera Junkie's case, let's say that he is publishing a live stream, or he's publishing a piece of video content to YouTube. Then what he wants to think about is, okay, I am going to use a camera image, just a nice looking shot of this camera, so that people can identify that. That's going to be one experiment. And then I'm going to use TubeBuddy or something like that to A/B test them, or I'll just test them myself across, a series of videos using the grouping feature inside of your analytics. But basically what he would do is he would experiment, his videos with faces plus the gear, or just the gear. And then he can start to uncover over time, or through just a very short amount of videos, how people respond to his content when he doesn't have his face in there and he focuses more on the thing that they care about. Okay. So if you, again, once he starts, cause he's already got a following. So it's, once you start getting a following, then the face starts holding more weight when it comes to your thumbnails, because then you have more people that know you, more people that have watched your content. So then, you're having your face in there carries a little bit more weight, but even still, focusing on the imagery itself, that matters to the viewer, is something that you definitely want to consider. In addition to that, you want to, and this is a really important thing, you want to make sure that you are considering how your title and your thumbnail work together. So when you are putting your thumbnails and titles together, it's important to keep in mind that your thumbnail, the job of your thumbnail, like I mentioned before, is to grab their attention, right? Stop them in their tracks, pull their attention. If they're on a computer, home screen loads up, there's a big grid of videos. You want your video to be the thing that grabs their attention, right? So, or your live stream to be the thing that grabs their attention. But once they see your thumbnail, that may or may not be enough to push them over the edge. So because of that, you want to think of how your thumbnail and title work together as a team to win the click for you. So within that, what you want to think about is the same exact thing that I said with the titles before. You want to sit back once you're putting your thumbnail and title together, and you want to think, one, how do these work together? So if somebody sees this thumbnail and it grabs their attention, if their eyes fall down to the title, what's the first thing they see there? Right? What's the first thing they see there? And you do not want to repeat the same exact thing in your title that you have in your thumbnail. If you're going to use text, you want to kind of use them back and forth to support each other, so to speak. So what you would want to do is you'd want to think of it from the perspective of, okay, my thumbnail is going to stop them in their tracks. So all of this has to be based around the things that they're interested in. In my title, of course, I'm going to add keywords to it, and I'm going to try to be as compelling as I possibly can. But I'm going to think about the viewers and think about, okay, if somebody just sees my thumbnail, is that going to be enough to push them over? Yes or no? If it's no, then I have to spend extra time on my title to make sure that the title and the thumbnail together are going to be the thing that wins the click for me, right? But you want to sit back, think of how they work together. And just like I was talking about in your title, you want to, go out of work mode for a second in terms of actually making it. And you want to sit back and actually think about it and analyze it. So when you're analyzing it, you want to think to yourself, like I said before, the people that are going to see this that I'm trying to reach, can they identify that this is for them? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then you need to workshop it a little bit until you can figure out a way to make them or help them identify that it's for them. If the answer is yes, then you're good, right? Then you're good to go. Then move on to to the next things. Get your video ready to go. But you want to just sit back and analyze everything and just make sure that it's easy to read. Make sure that it's easy to understand what the video is going to be about, and that you're also considering with your title and with your thumbnail. Like you always hear, people like myself talking about your hook, right? When your video starts, you got to make sure you're hooking the viewers. Another thing just to make sure that you're remembering is that your title and your thumbnail are also a part of that hook, because your title and your thumbnail and the topic of the video itself, all three of those things are creating an expectation for what they might get in your video or live stream. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're just putting a lot of thought into that, because in addition to helping them identify it's for them and then being compelling, trying to get them to click, you're also grabbing their attention there and you're building an expectation. So because of that, when your live stream first starts, it's really advantageous. Now, keep in mind, when your live stream starts, it's advantageous. When your replay, which we're going to get into here in a minute, when your replay plays, it's advantageous. But of course, once you're live, you're only the people that are waiting for you to go live are going to hear this part. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that that hook that you're creating on the outside, or that interest that you're building on the outside, that as soon as they come into the live stream on the replay, or for the people that are waiting, that you reinforce what it is that you promised in the title and thumbnail. You let them know these are the things that we're going to be talking about, or these are the things I'm going to be showing you, or this is, if you're vlogging and you're doing like IRL streams, like, hey, this is the place that we're going to be going today, or this is the challenge that we're trying to accomplish if you're in a game. So you want to kind of build that hook up, and when possible, also frame it around the viewer and how it's going to help the viewer, or why they might find it interesting, or, what you're trying to accomplish and why they should come along, right? So you want to make sure that you're thinking about those things. And you also want to make sure that you look at your thumbnails at a very small size. So, when you publish it to YouTube, go into your YouTube Creator Studio app on your phone, and go in there and actually look and see what it looks like on a small size, and make sure that you can pull enough information from it at a small size as well. Next, let's talk about descriptions. So when it comes to your descriptions for a live stream, this isn't necessarily about search, even though your live streams, can show up in search, before you even go live if you optimize them correctly. But it's more about making it easy for people to find the content and help YouTube understand what the content's about. So how I mentioned before about using keywords so that YouTube can, help identify who might be, the good people for that particular piece of content. The same exact thing goes with your description. YouTube recommends that you write a paragraph or two. And the whole reason for that is so that, that's their system is reading your title. It's reading the things that you say. If it's a piece of video content, it's reading the things that you say in the video. If you're live streaming, it's also listening and reading or paying attention to the things that you're saying in your live stream as well. But what you want to do is you want to give yourself an advantage by making sure that you're filling out your description as well, so that the system can also pull the context from that, because your title and your description are two very strong points of context for YouTube that they get information from to help their system identify who's a good candidate for the video or the live stream that you're publishing. In your descriptions, you also want to make sure that you are that you're adding links to relevant videos or live streams as well. The reason you want to do that as it pertains to views is because when people are clicking into more of your content from the content that they're watching, then that's a really good signal for YouTube. And if you can get people doing that a lot, then that can help that originating video get more views. Okay. In addition to that, you want to make sure that before you go live that you get your settings right. So there's language settings inside of YouTube. There's settings to where, and if you are uploading directly from Streamyard, you're not going to see some of this. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you schedule your live stream inside of Streamyard, that once it's scheduled, that you go into your YouTube backend and that you set up these settings there. But you want to go in, you want to make sure that you have your language selected in terms of who, like what language is going to be spoken in this live stream or video. And you also want to make sure that you have, let's see here, that you have your language. that you also do the other things in there as well in terms of, like this content hasn't aired somewhere, but you also want to make sure, and this one's really important, that you mark it if it's for kids or not for kids, so that, again, they can make sure to show it to the right people as well. In addition to that, let's go into after the stream. So when it comes to, and so all of that is like while you're streaming, right? But when it comes to after the stream is complete, it's really important to think about your replay. And even while you're streaming, it's important, or when your stream first starts, it's important to think about the replay. And what I mean by that is you have your live stream that's on while it's live, but then your replay is going to be the experience that people are going to have after your live stream is over. So if you keep your live streams public on YouTube, then here's some things that you want to think about. One, if you've used any type of timer, if you have any type of thing that is not going to add value to the viewers as soon as they start your live stream, in terms of like a hook or context, anything like that, you want to make sure you cut off anything on the front that is not going to add value to viewers or doesn't give any context to what it is that they're going to be experiencing in your live stream. The reason that you want to do that is because let's say that you have a 30-second timer or a 1-minute timer. People are either going to skip through that anyway, or a majority of people are actually just going to leave. Because it's like, hey, I'm not going to wait 30 seconds to just see what's going on in this video. Some people will, but the masses will not. So because of that, if you have any type of countdown timer, anything like that you do in the front of your live streams that isn't actually, part of the live stream really, then you want to go in, you want to make sure that you trim that off. So inside of YouTube, they have a editor to where after your live stream is finished and processed, it's got to be processed on their end, then you can go in, you can actually trim the front part of your live stream off. So I really encourage you to do that, because when you do that, then you're going to help your replays do better, because then people can come right in. Now, in addition to that, if you are putting out your content and you're putting out your live streams and you have anything like on there that says like live, right? Unless live is part of your name. But if you have live on your actual thumbnail, also go in and update that as well. You don't have to put replay, anything like that, but just think about, okay, this thumbnail that I originally used, this is for to grab people's attention while I was live. Now I'm going to think about, remember how we were talking about before, sitting back, right? Stop doing for a second, sit back and think about, hey, how is somebody going to, react to this? And you want to think to yourself, like, okay, now this is a piece of video content on YouTube. So it was live when I was streaming, but now it's a piece of video content on YouTube. So what I need to do is I need to sit back and I need to think, one, in terms of a video experience, how's it going to be? Is there anything I need to trim out of the live stream in order to make it easier to consume? In addition to that, you also want to make sure that you take off any live, hey, we're live now, or anything like that you're using in your thumbnail, and that you change that to something that would be more appropriate for a video version of your live stream. The next thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're post-optimizing your live streams as well. What I mean by that is you want to make sure that after your live stream is finished, you want to make sure that you go and you add in screens. That's basically, in case you're not familiar, that's the little, clickable options that show up at the end of YouTube videos. You have the option to add those on your live streams as well. You want to make sure that you're doing that, especially if you're doing shorter streams. If you're doing really long streams, it's not as important because your complete rate's probably going to be relatively low. But if you're doing shorter streams, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, then in that case, you want to make sure that you are adding those in-screen elements. And a pro tip for you is if you are live streaming and then you notice on your replays that there's a particular part of your live streams that people just don't make it past, what you want to do, and YouTube will show you that in your analytics, what you want to do there is a few minutes or a few seconds before that drop happens and people, just kind of tuning out of your live stream, you want to go in and you want to add a YouTube card. That YouTube card is going to send them to, either a recent video or something that would be relevant to the live stream. So all you're trying to do in that situation is you're trying to grab their attention before the drop by a YouTube card. If you're not familiar with what a YouTube card is it's basically the little eye icon, the little information icon that shows up at the top of the video, and then it will scroll out and it will have a title there. So what you want to do is you want to, be very compelling, just like when you're writing your titles, you want to be very compelling with what it is that you're saying there in your card, because if people are leaving that part of the live stream en masse anyway, they're not going to be watching the live stream. The best thing that you can do is send them to another live stream or send them to a piece of video content so that you continue to get their views. You can also get, ad plays, which means that you're going to make, some money off of it. And you also just make it easier for them to find more of your content as well. And, as it matters to them. And in addition to that, you also, if you want to get more, views on your live streams while you're live, For the people that are coming into the replay, you also might want to consider either scheduling another live stream and having that one, be the thing that you link to, or just pin a comment, letting people know what your live stream schedule is. And by pinning a comment, what I mean by that is on YouTube, you have the option in your comment section, if you go to your own comments, where you can write your comment out, and then you can, there's a 3-dot menu, and you can see this on a mobile phone or on a computer, but there's a 3-dot menu to the far right of that comment. If you tap on that 3-dot menu, then you're going to have an option to pin your comment. So what you'd want to do is you'd want to write out, hey, if you missed the stream, catch us live, every Tuesday at, whatever time. And then you want to pin that comment and have that there at the top for the people that go down into the comment section, so that you're spreading awareness about that schedule. Now, in addition to the things that I've mentioned so far, of course, there's the general best practices when it comes to streaming as well. Of course, you want to make sure that you're engaging when your stream's on. Like, a lot of people, I'll see live streams. People will send me, messages on Twitter, and they're like, hey, I'm not getting a lot of views on my stuff. And then I'll go and I'll watch their live streams, and they're literally just kind of like sitting there. Like they're not even doing anything. They're just like live, and they're just kind of like hanging out. And it's not like a work with me stream. It's not a study with me stream. It's not a chill with me stream. It's like them trying to like live stream, and they're live streaming, but they're just not doing anything that's of value in terms of, adding anything to the audience. They're not being entertaining. They're not being informative. They're not being motivational, inspirational. They're not doing anything. So because of that, obviously nobody's going to hang out and just watch somebody sit there and look at their phone for 20 minutes or however long the stream is. So you want to make sure that you're just being engaging. When your stream first starts, don't wait for people, because again, you want to think about that replay. So don't wait for people to come in. Just when your stream starts, remember that this is for the live moment, but this is also for the replay. So because of that, you want to make sure that as soon as your stream starts, that you go for it in terms of, like, hey, this is what we're doing today, blah, 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 the hook that I mentioned before. But if you are like, hey, I want to wait until we're about 15 minutes into the stream to turn that into the actual video content, then just plan ahead, right? So then what you do in that situation is you have the first part of the streams while you're live, where you're like, hey, you're giving shout outs to Doug Hoos and YT, you're giving shout outs to The Vivid Life, you're giving shout outs to DZ Studios, you're giving shout outs to Creator Economy, you're giving shout outs to, the people that are interacting in your stream. But then at that 15-minute mark, you're like, okay, now I'm going to add the hook. Now, you would do it in the very beginning anyway of your stream, but you'd say now at the 15-minute mark, I'm going to add the hook there. And then I'm going to like technically start my stream for the replay from this point forward, right? So you're being intentional about what it is that you're doing in your live stream. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you're encouraging interaction. So when we were first getting this thing started, there was a handful of questions that, I was like, hey, if you use templates, let me know, right? So some of that is because, one, I want to know, but some of it is also because when the chat's moving and there's engagement happening, YouTube sees that activity, and then of course they'll end up showing it to more people because there's stuff going on. So because of that, you want to encourage interaction when possible. And of course, you want to make sure that you're streaming on a schedule. Stream on a schedule, let people know that you're streaming on a schedule, spread awareness about that schedule everywhere it is that you post online. And of course, as you're spreading awareness about the schedule, if you have something coming up, let people know that it's coming up. Okay. If you don't have a big following yet, and let's say you've got, like 100 followers, in that case, the amount of time that you need to plan ahead in terms of letting people know that you have something coming up is greater, so that you can, build up a little bit of hype for your stream and get people, excited to come and participate in what it is that you're doing. In addition to that, encourage people in your live streams to follow you on your other social media outlets. If you have Twitter, if you have Instagram, anywhere, TikTok, not really, but like Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, they allow you to add stories to where, you can just add a story, let people know that you're going live, so that, if they don't get the notification on YouTube, if it ends up not showing up on their homepage or something, then you are letting people know, hey, I'm going live in a couple hours, going live tomorrow, going live, next week, I'm going live, whenever, so that you can just spread awareness to people, and that following on Instagram or Twitter or wherever it is that you're trying to drive people to, that will grow over time. And then with every single person that follows you over there, that's one more touch point to them to let them know that you're going to be live streaming. And then of course, let's talk really quick about, you know what, I'll go through this quickly because I want to answer some questions as well. But I just had some bonus content in here as well about just getting more content out of your live streams. So one thing that I do with my live streams, and I don't do it as well as I should in terms of as consistently, I'm in the process right now trying to find somebody to help me with it. I'm just trying to hire somebody to help me with the process. But basically you can download your streams. And I have a channel for this, and I publish over there, but you can download your streams from Streamyard or from YouTube directly, and you can cut off highlights into clips. And one of the ways that this can help you get more views on your live streams is that when you're cutting those down into clips, you're making a bunch of easier to consume content. So if your content type supports it, if you can cut out little clips that are relevant, that you could make little individual videos for, and you can upload them onto another channel, then what you're doing in that situation is you're creating more content and more opportunities to get in front of more people with that short form content that requires a smaller commitment from a new viewer. You're putting out a lot of that type of content, and then you, through that content, spread more awareness about your live streams as well. So, one, hey, you can consume this, so subscribe here, but also we have this live stream that we do over here that you should be participating in, right? That's the idea. And in addition to that, you also want to make sure that if you are like, hey, you know what, the type of content I make doesn't really support that idea, Nick, then in that case, be intentional and work that type of thing into your live stream so that you just have a note sitting on your desk or wherever it is that you live stream and say, hey, make an interesting clip. And you're just going to do it live. And then you can make a note like, this is the time that I did it, so that you can cut that out of your live stream. Now, of course, you want to make sure that it's fluid with your live stream and that's not an interruption to your viewers, so that you can, to them, it's going to seem seamless, but to you, that you're intentionally doing that so that you can clip it out later and use it as a piece of content elsewhere. So with all of that out of the way, let's get some questions going. So like right now, I've got like 6 minutes left. So we're going to go lightning round on this because, I want to make sure that I can, answer your questions as fully as possible. So we're going to go lightning round. If you have a question, make sure you put a Q in front of your question, so I know it's for me and not a side conversation happening in the chat. If you have any questions about anything that I have talked about today, make sure that you drop it in the chat right now. And of course, make sure that you add a Q as well, so that I know that it is for me. So let's see here. So Blind Guy, his wife, their life. Hey, what's going on? I saw you on the Streamyard channel the other day. Welcome to this stream. So let's see here. I'm really struggling with my videos, very low views, but the few who come in so committed and so kind to me. So what you want to think about if you're struggling to get views on your videos or your live streams, when it comes to your video content, you have your audience retention reports, you have your click-through rate, you have the engagement that you're getting on your videos. YouTube gives you reports for all of that. So what you want to do is you want to, one, think of the topics that you're making content about, just like we were talking about here. This applies to video content as well. You want to think about the topics that you're making content about and make sure that you're making videos about things that people, care about in general and that people are already interested in, and that you're very specific in your title and your thumbnail that your video is about that thing, right? And then within your video content itself, the longer you keep people watching, it's a satisfaction signal, and YouTube wants to keep their viewers satisfied. So when you keep people watching your live stream or your video content for a longer period of time, YouTube identifies it as as a high performing piece of content. If you can get people to click, watch, and further engage, and by further engage, I mean click on your end screens, leave comments, give you a thumbs up, maybe subscribe to the channel. When they detect that, hey, people are really responding to this content, they're going to show it to more people. So because of that, you want to make sure that you're paying really close attention to your analytics, so that you can make sure that people are, regardless of what they're saying in the comment section, you want to make sure that you are getting data from the people in the comment section as well as the people that are not vocal. And the way that you do that is in your audience retention reports, and of course, looking at your click-through rate and the other engagement that you're generating from the channel. Hello, Maria Nicole. What is going on? I hope that you are doing fantastic. Nice to see you in here. Let's see here. So let's see here. Stock Ada says it's very difficult to manage super chats with StreamYard. Can you get a separate pane for that? So with super chats and StreamYard, what I typically do, because in my live streams, I'll typically get, during the course of the live stream, usually about 3,000 people through the live stream itself, and then I'll get an extra like 3,000 to 8,000 views on the replay. But what I do for these super chats is just as they come in, I have one, just as a tip for you, and I can actually show you the screen here so you can see exactly how I do it. But I basically have a YouTube chat that I have popped out. Oops, I accidentally threw it over here. I have the YouTube chat that I have popped out. And then I have that I use to keep up with real-time chat. And then I have my StreamYard chat to where I use that to jump from super chat to super chat. And then that allows me to pin the comment to the screen and that sort of thing. So I can make sure that I am, that I'm addressing the super chats as they come in. So hopefully that helped you there with that one. And let's see here. How far in advance should we schedule our live stream? So if you schedule in advance, it's going to be advantageous because people on YouTube, because people can click that remind button. So then it'll show up on their home pages. If they have notifications enabled, then in that case, they can get a notification to let them know that you're live. So if you don't have a lot of followers yet, then I would do it way in advance. So let's say that you stream one time per week. Let's say that you've got like 1,000 subscribers. I would schedule that live stream like 3 days, maybe even 5 days in advance, so that you can give those people that are coming in and interacting with your channel a time to know that you have that live stream available. If you have a lot more people behind you, then in that case you can do it a little bit closer to the time or the day. But even in that case, it's advantageous to schedule ahead of time. So you also want to think about your content schedule. So let's say that you publish on a Monday. You don't want to schedule your stream on a Monday. You probably don't want to schedule it on a Tuesday. So because of that, go ahead and publish your video on Monday and then schedule your stream on like Wednesday, as an example. If you're just doing one and one, if you're doing like 2 pieces of video content in a stream, or 2 streams and a piece of video content, or maybe 3 streams, just give yourself a little bit, of a window, in terms of, so you're not publishing or planning a bunch of stuff that's all competing with each other, right? So you just want to give yourself a little bit of space between the content. Okay, we answered that one. Magic Prepper, what's up? Hope you're doing great. Sorry about the confusion there with the name earlier. Says, if you have guests on Streamyard, how do you deal with someone who might violate guidelines while live? How do you remove the stream, or can you just edit it afterwards? So you can edit it afterwards. But first, at the very top of it, I would just not have somebody on the stream that you think is a risk. But sometimes you'll have people come on and you'll think that they're okay. And, maybe they do some things, or maybe they play something in the background and they just didn't know. And then you run into issues that way. Then you definitely want to go and you want to edit that out in the YouTube editor. Let's see here. Reed's Art of Adventure says, I would like to start doing premieres, but do my whole channel on my phone. So if you use your phone in desktop mode through Google Chrome, I think if you're on an iPhone, you can do it through Safari as well. But if you use desktop mode, it allows you to use some of YouTube's desktop features as well. Same thing goes for your analytics. You'll get full access to everything in your analytics instead of the limited version that they give you inside of the Creator Studio app. Let's see your question. Messages and live stream chats are randomly being blocked and deleted for no good reason by the AI moderator software. Any suggestions? So if you are having things deleted, you want to first check your blocked words list. So inside of YouTube, you have something in your settings. You have something called blocked words list. So to find that, if you go into your settings on a computer or desktop mode on your phone, go to the very bottom left of your screen, you're going to see a little gear icon. Click on that gear icon, and then you're going to go into community, I believe it is. And then if you scroll down there, you're going to see blocked words. So you want to check that blocked words list to see if there's anything that people commonly say that is causing people to get flagged. If not, then in that situation, you might also want to uncheck the box that says hold inappropriate comments, and just see on your next live stream, just see if that causes, if it causes it to be a little bit more relaxed in your case. Let's see here. Hey, thanks. Pay your time. I appreciate that. Let's see here. As we keep going, looking for questions. To start my live stream, but there's lots I don't know. I'm listening to you now. And in gaming, lots of info. Seems hard though. Well, it is hard. It's hard just like anything else. So, if you try to do anything new, it's going to be hard. If you try anything new, it's going to be hard until you learn how to do it. Once you learn how to do it, then, it might still be hard, but you have just learned how to do it. So because of that, don't worry about it being hard. I encourage you to change your mindset. And instead of saying like, hey, this is hard, look at it and say like, okay, what I need to learn in order to be able to do this better, right? Like, what more information do I need in order to get better at this? How much more practice do I need in order to get better at this? And I encourage you to just practice and learn as much as you can about live streaming. And the more that you do that and you immerse yourself in the information, the better you're going to get at it. And the more you're going to understand all of the different aspects of live streaming. But really, I encourage you to just go for it. Go for it, practice, and just be really mindful about what it is that's happening, and be very intentional about the live streams that you're doing. That also focusing on that and focusing on the value that you're bringing to your viewers. Those types of things can also kind of help take away that that frustration and that kind of stuff. So if you just focus it on like, hey, in this live stream, I'm going to add like this specific value to my viewers, and you just focus all of your efforts on that, then it can take away the, the difficult side of like, hey, what am I going to say? And, those types of things. You said, can you show it? I'm not sure. Damon, what's up, man? I'm not sure what you meant by show it. Let's see here. Yeah, and add a trailer now, as they have that option for sure. Let's see here. So yeah, for the trailer, Doug. So I'm thinking of adding one for my live stream this week if I have time to make it between tomorrow and Saturday. We'll see, but yeah, I'm considering making one for that as well, just so I can do the functionality and then make a video about it. Let's see here. How do you get through this much talking without a sip of water? I've been watching you for years and you're the best at this. So for me, basically I'll have some coffee before I go. I try to stay just hydrated in general, just, for the sake of, like I drink a ton of water throughout the day. So one thing that I will do is I will have, some water before the stream. And, I'll drink coffee during the stream as well. And from time to time, my voice will just kind of dry out, and I'll just make sure, like I've got a big bottle of water down here, that's available. And then of course, I always have some type of liquid, Gatorade, coffee, water, to where in the event that I do start drying up a little bit, that I can sip on it. But I definitely do tend to talk a lot without breaths or sips. Magic Prepper, thank you, man. Thank you for the kind words. What would you suggest for the length of a first stream? This is a great question. So your first stream, I actually wouldn't make it that long. So I would go for, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. What I would think about for your very first live stream is, how can I make a piece of video content live? And what I mean by that is, like, okay, if somebody, like if you're uploading videos to your YouTube channel, then in that case, you're used to making content. So then in that case, think to yourself, like, what could I make over the course of like 20 minutes that I could do live, to where I would be able to deliver, a similar value through my live stream, but just do it, relatively short. The reason you want to do it relatively short, or that you want to start out thinking that it's going to be relatively short, is because that makes the commitment less. And that also just makes it to where, you're like, hey, you know what, when I go live, I don't have to worry about being live for an hour, I'll be fine. And then once you start streaming, if you're like, hey, this is a good time, then of course, you can keep it going, for longer than that. But I recommend when you're first getting started, try 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, and just see how you go, because there's the tech side of it. And then there's just energy, that's required as well. So just picking like 20 to 30 minutes when you're first getting started for your first live stream is good, because then you can get a taste of it and you can see how addictive it is. And then you'll start doing it more. Will StreamYard ever do live for TikTok or Instagram? I'm not sure. You would definitely want to contact their support for that. I do know that they do have, other things, coming out in the future. They're constantly working on it, trying to make it a better product. So because of that, I'm sure they're definitely looking at other integrations as well. I'm just not sure exactly which platforms. Let's see here. When to add a donation notifications through Streamlabs or other website? When do you add a notification? So I'm not sure on the donation notification. I'm not sure exactly what you mean on that one. Unless you're talking about like when somebody like gives a super chat, then you have something pop up on screen. In order to do that, you can use like OBS. You can port that through StreamYard if you want, and then you can actually get direct code that you can use through, I think Streamlabs offers it to where you can get that direct code, and then you can put that as a browser source. And then when somebody subscribes or gives you super chat or something, then it'll pop up information on the screen. All right. So I just want to thank everybody for hanging out in the live stream today. I hope that you got some type of value out of this. If so, make sure you give this a thumbs up on the way out. And besides that, again, I encourage you, if you are not a StreamYard user yet, you can try StreamYard at streamyard.com. So you can see just how easy it is to use and why I use it all the time for my live streams. And besides that, everybody have an awesome rest of your week. If this is your first time meeting me, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about this stuff with pretty much every video that I upload and my live streams as well. So, feel free to just head over to nicknimmin.com. That will lead you everywhere, or just go on YouTube and look for Nick Nimmin as well. The name's right down here in the bottom of the screen. And everybody have an awesome rest of your week. And I will see you soon.